Hey everybody, it's crypto. Yep, we're going to come and answer some questions. Bitcoin's coming home, it's coming home. Relax, ye of little faith. Ye of little faith. We're going to talk to you about the crypto markets, Bitcoin, and of course Ethereum and one or two of the others, but mainly about the big direction decider, the God market. All hail His Holiness. Yes, it is Bitcoin. He determines direction. The others will give you the amplitude multiplier to the upside or the downside as a result of their higher beta. But many people getting nervous because it's kind of scary. Yes. So the key thing is, this is not great leverage trading markets. It's what we've said the last 3 videos we said to you. Do not a leverage trader be. This is pure whittling. You'll get whittled on every trade. No real major technical moves of major significance will occur, and you will just be donating your crypto away to the ether machine, the bots, and everybody else is taking the other side. It is not breakout and movement territory yet. And that's what's largely been happening. The volatility has been dying down, but you got to understand how hard, how fast we fell for us not to have a further continuation downside. The reverbs and the aftershocks have to be allowed to run through. The full energy of the earthquake must dissipate, and it doesn't all happen in the impact moment of the head and shoulders sell that occurred. As a result, there you get a little bit more shuddering around before it dissipates and the green grass comes back and the Euro trophy comes home to Rome. Well done, Italy. Yes, well done, well done. Meanwhile, while South Africa burns, Durban, KZN, the boys in the links, a couple of you. Hopefully you're keeping safe out there. Wow, the world's going crazy. In the meantime, Bitcoin churns while Durban burns. And what is happening? Let's take a look at the charts. Straight on up to something visual that you can see. So here you are, the big splash. You know about it. We don't need to recap excessively. You've been watching this channel for a long, long time. And we've been saying it's a net accumulate period, but you're going to face the summer doldrums. The summer doldrums. So the doldrums were named after, it's kind of the latitudes around about the 40 degrees and below, where you would get no wind when they were sailing on the spice routes. The Dutch East India Company going round South Africa all the way to, there was no Suez Canal back then, there was wooden boats, they relied on wind, and you would hit the doldrums. And it was a zone where you just didn't get what you want. Then later you ended up lower down by the Cape, which was known as the Cape of Storms, and you got smashed on the rocks. So that is the way of the world. No volatility and then too much, and that's kind of how it happens. And as a result, you are in the summer doldrum. Summer, which of course is dictated by the northern hemisphere where the bulk of the population is, etc., and the economic activity. I remember I was down south all the time, and it was like we were peasants in another planet. But no, unfortunately, it is dictated by northern hemisphere. And it is their summer doldrum. Some people will be taking holiday and leave, and the rest will be locked down as peasants. That's right. But before we go too far into that little rabbit hole, let's talk about this chart that I'm looking at and what have I drawn. So, grabbing a slighter, fatter Koki, I want to highlight to you, you've got a bit of a rising wedge coming up into here. A rising wedge invariably sets up a squeeze, which usually sets up an impulsive reaction that is going to occur. On balance of probabilities, in most circumstances, unless you are facing certain unique criteria, which we discuss in our programs, which is called the type 3 rising wedge, you get a type 1 or 2, which means you are going to break to the downside. You might get a little pop out the top for a 2 and dip down later, or you go straight to the bit where you fall down. And that's essentially what's happened, because you're in a churning market. This is not breakout momentum. So you've got your little rising wedge that came up after a long period of down. You actually made a marginally lower low. I told you at the time that's actually a good thing. It didn't feel like it while it was happening. The marginally lower low cancels or reduces. It never cancels fully. It reduces the balance of probabilities that you are in a macro downside continuation pattern. We had that threat when we were here. That was your absolute low as part of the target run, and that was a real threat to continuation. And when that little fella fell and it started to sell off there, that was the moment we said it could be a short. the lack of follow through and the invalidation of that was a key moment. So remember, structures and setups are not guaranteed to succeed. They are feedback mechanisms. You don't see them as I was right or I was wrong. It's the market was given an opportunity to give you feedback, and that's what it told you. So that's saw us say, okay, you don't have the breakdown momentum to go down. You have part of the momentum to go down, but you're not going down. What do we want? We want the possibility of marginally lower lows. If you're not continuation, we want to start to get structure that is bottoming. And what do you want from that? You want marginally lower lows in the exact same way, good people. We called marginally higher highs bearish. Marginally lower lows are actually the beginning of bottoming. Remember that marginally higher highs story? That was actually the construct of a rising wedge as well. And that was up top here. This was showing Bitcoin was struggling from much higher bases to make significantly higher highs. It went down, could only go marginally higher. It went down, only marginally higher, taking longer. That was a process of exhaustion pressing into new highs. By the way, during that period, if you look at the Grayscale chart, something I was discussing internally with the premium community, which you can become part of, just hit the link below and book a call if you should want. While we were looking at that, we were seeing that actually the institutional money, that a lot of it would have gone into Grayscale because they don't have to worry about custody and keys and things like that. And it was a big corporation and they'll look after everything, and they could just get without, if they weren't allowed to own crypto, it wasn't yet in their mandate or their T's and C's, they could own shares in Grayscale, and it was a little workaround, in spite of Grayscale having a 2% cost for money for managing that process for them, which is rather high. During that period, the Grayscale trust actually was flatlining. So you're actually getting a divergence on the institutional money. Whoops, let's leave that there. Let's draw again somewhere else. The Grayscale one was doing that. Had a flat bottom and it was doing a little bit of a descending triangle. Maybe I'll split that for you. Let's do it actually. Show you quickly why that's interesting. Because Grayscale would typically be the big money of traditional markets. You and me, we want to own our keys. We know how we can go buy. Everyone's got a Coinbase account or some or other, and they can go buy it. But for other folk, the big institutions and the players that that are bound by terms and conditions and mandates that don't allow this new asset class, they needed something else. So let's just show you that actually. It's a bit of fun and you can see it. And I highlighted this and here we go. Bitcoin's coming home. It's coming home. Yeah, so that's it. Bear in mind that the Grayscale shares can only be traded on weekdays. So it has less tradable days. So I'm putting it on a 4-hour and I'm putting the Bitcoin on a 6-hour because there's 50% more time with 2 days out of 5. It's almost 50%. It's 40% to be exact. And you can see the point I was illustrating. So this was showing institutional buying was flatlining square, descending triangle type top, whilst actual Bitcoin price was still squeezing higher into its rising wedge. So you started to get a divergence here. This was a divergence period. Your highest Bitcoin price on Grayscale, let's get the actual day there, which I think is going to turn into a useful institutional monitor. There will be others that'll come in. We can just add them all in, but it'll highlight institutional participation. And this is the point I've said when I've drawn the normal chart with the bell and saying the big drivers will be fresh money that comes big. And where does that come from? It doesn't come from Minnie Mouse and Grandma and everyone. It's family offices, it's hedge funds, it's Grayscale, it's the likes of them. So that's going to be a future indicator for topping out. You can see the premium started to get squeezed on Grayscale. It had a premium because it was the only way people could get in. I don't think it'll ever have those huge premiums as other rivals start to exist. That's going to get compressed for them. But whenever you see the Grayscale share not going up in alliance and diverging from the actual Bitcoin price, you hadn't thought of that. Well, now you have, and now you know it. You can watch it for calling tops next time. Watch it for calling tops next time. You got it free tip courtesy of the Market Sniper, the Crypto Sniper, and the Reset Sniper. Okay, let's go back to, we'll let go of that interesting little topic, but do take note of it. It's going to prove useful. So I got the wrong one in the end. I knew I'd do that. Let's go back to our friend Bitcoin. So what's going on in here? So let's just talk about the marginally lower lows. So actually, having not gone continuation route, we were talking to you about a broadening as you hammer out the lower. So we've drawn those gray lines. Let's just remind you of those. That hasn't changed. We have a splitter through that. So you thrashed around quite wildly. And what's actually happening is the volatility in all that is reducing. The volatility and the length and the consistency of move. This is what makes this far less attractive a trading environment. Too much chop and sketchiness and churn, but also the range is dropping. So even if you get the right direction, there's not much follow through before it starts coming back the other way. How do you set stops? You're not getting the squeeze. So this is a reduction in volatility that is occurring after making a lower low. So we're going to keep telling you what you need to hear. And what you need to hear is Bitcoin's coming out. It's bringing a trophy for you for waiting. It takes a while. And yes, it's got to thrash itself out. It threw it down out of a head and shoulders in about 7% of the time it needed to actually make its target on the downside. We deserved a next leg to the downside, but after it showed it didn't have the gumption for that, despite FUD, all forms of FUD that has non-stop been coming. Anyone else notice when you're the biggest exchange in the crypto realm, how you always seem to get regulatory attention? People say Bitfinex deserved it when they were the biggest and they were part shareholder in Tether and all the Tether FUD and everything that went down in that. And now it's Binance. Binance is getting everything. Look, at one point I thought he must be a chosen one because they were allowed to grow. They got a large part of Bitfinex market share when Bitfinex was being squeezed. It ain't over for Bitfinex, by the way, but I think it's certainly tailing off. And what's now happening is Binance seems to be getting all the regulatory attention. They don't like the derivatives additionally, but they're also going to keep the biggest exchanges, it seems, hopping and responding to their needs. You suddenly go from just having to accumulate clients and develop a good platform to having to hire lawyers and compliance officers and everything. Imagine going that route. When you get that big, the control structure turns its spotlight on you. And I just think it's kind of interesting. And we get a lot of this FUD all in unveiling and happening now during your summer doldrums, during halftime oranges. And I think this is the kind of stuff that's going to get shrugged off. Plus, you had China mining, you had all of this monkey business going on. But actually, when a bottom comes in, when a market stops going down on negative news, not positive news. A bottom isn't in when the news changes to positive. And the bottom is in when you cease to go down on bearish news. And we are kind of getting that. There's no new low on all of this stuff. You know, the biggest crypto exchange is being attacked for everything and all of them. They especially don't like the derivatives. We know Arthur Hayes and his merry band are being chased on MEX. They could have done some skullduggery. Who knows? It's not my place to judge. But since Binance has added that, they got that element was what got them thrown out of the UK. So there's interesting news out there generally. Overall, this channel, we needed it. I was saying to the guys last night, it would be a little bit nervy for us if it didn't get a good rejection when it came down here for this visit to the downside. Thankfully, it has. It came down, it kissed it, and up it's working its way. It's not ripping. It ain't setting any land speed records. But this, typically, a channel downwards on a bull pole has a small degree of what many would call a bull flag. Now, I want to highlight to you that the pole's pretty small and the flag is pretty broad and long standing, and it has taken back an immense amount of the up move. You went all the way there and effectively all the way back down here. So it's a better part of a 90% retrace. So I'm not going to tell you that's a typical proportionate bull flag structure. But overall, you can get these disproportionalities. And if it wanted to spill and do man-peas off the roof to the downside, which would be all of our worst dreams who are sitting in Bitcoin collateral or crypto collateral, if it were to do that, this kind of price behavior is not typically what precedes that. In other words, a fairly even downward channel. That is not typically what comes before a man pees off the roof like that. It's far more different. A rising wedge, very, very good for squeezing, and then coming back down. This kind of structure is not typical. I won't say it never and it can't happen. There are no absolutes, but overall, this is channel-based churn. Channel-based churn. And it's on the low side. You saw our splitter there. And I think what happens is over the summer, it's still too early. It's still... Part of Britain hasn't had a summer yet. It comes on a Wednesday usually. But anyway, they haven't had one. And it's still to happen. So generally, you see off this dull period, it starts to pick up second half of August often when we had traditional markets. That's kind of been changed a little bit since there's no longer this city boys going to London Central and the investment banks working from offices and taking leave. That cycle's been broken up by so many people working at home, lockdowns, sicknesses, various things. The normal work holiday cycle has fractured up, so it can certainly come a bit earlier for us, but it just does feel like this is all part of the summer doldrums and an accumulate time. A couple of other charts that we can show you that were interesting that still will be our potential outperformers once Bitcoin, please note, not necessarily the second, once Bitcoin is ready to go and it determines its direction and it moves firmly, and assuming that's to the upside. And as I say, as uncomfortable as that be, revisiting the 31.5, the manner in which it has happened with this very low vol, small zigzagging down, grinding down inside two grind lines, a capping descending and a basing descending grind line, is typical of actually subsequently a move above this line. So actually, if you're asking me for a prediction, I say we're going to get into the upper half of this descending megaphone that we have here across the lows. We're going to get back into the upper half. We already were a little bit there in the upper half and there, but we are probably likely to move our way back. But it's not going to be shooting the lights out. It's not a trading season. Harvest at harvest season. Plow and sow in the off season, and this is off season. Make sure you do no harm. This is the period where not losing money represents success, and then being ready for when it is time to harvest and ensuring you maximize there. So understand that interesting things are happening in traditional markets. My oil trade is up. We're looking at an amazing defense play. We'll talk about it possibly on the Market Sniper tomorrow if you're sub to that channel. So other areas are still going and are setting up if you're looking for trading based activity. Crypto right now is waiting for direction, and Bitcoin equals the long-term direction, especially after such a big move. So what else can we show you? Well, we can show you a couple of interesting things. We're also going to look at your comments. Please post your comments. How about that audio? We put a lot of effort into our audio. We have a support person in here, amazing equipment, no advert channel. We appreciate one like. How about likes? 437 of you watching, less than 100 like it. You want old school, crappy audio and more ads? Nah, come on. Give us a bit of love. Okay, BTC. BTC, let's talk about the big pair. Now, I was making some comments on Twitter. You can follow at the Crypto Sniper. I was making some comments off other people's work on something I've always felt about Ethereum. Now, on the one hand, as I say, I treat it as something that's going to do pretty well in this next alt run. And I'm not changing my pitch on that. I'm talking now more fundamentally, more reset sniper-ish. I was deeply uncomfortable with Vitalik's association with a Sabbatean Frankist Chicago University professor that was talking about how all property should be on the blockchain, and if you don't declare a high enough value, someone can just swoop in and buy and throw you out, and you're forced to sell at whatever your declared value is. They're trying to create the property market to be something very fluid. They can print up tokens and get everyone thrown out of their homes, or you declare super high values and they can declare massive council taxes and wealth taxes on that value, so that either way they capture you in a pincer movement, so that you can set up your home the way you want it, build a garden, and some insider cartel Frankist can show up and own your home, and next thing you know, he's living there or he's renting it out to 3 families full of immigrants by the room. You don't know. You don't know what they're doing, and I didn't like what I saw there with Ethereum. Well, there's been many other threads now recently. Go check them out. I've retweeted them yesterday about Ethereum centralization and some of the big decisions they made on ETH2. So overall, for me, like many cryptos, remember I said, and I will say it again, and I will say it more than once, they will never let you have your own money. They will never let you have your own money. They must control anything that is potential money. And as a result, for me, as a young man, Vitalik is either being influenced by a whole community of whisperers around him, or he's deep inside the cartel himself. I don't know which one it will be. Broadly innocent but directed. As someone who's considered naive, if you really thought, you know, old Zuckerberg was running the whole Facebook show right from the beginning as that college dormster, and there were no people, despite the NSA doing an equivalent of Facebook well before, called Life, whatever. Let me just say, many more things than you realize are pre-planned. Unfortunately, it's a sad fact. And Ethereum, as the platform token, probably will have a great future on account of it being the official control structures development platform, in the same way Google came out of nowhere and just everybody was told it's the best algorithm, you should all be using it, media pushed it straight to the top. It wasn't the first search, it was sold to you as the best, and as a result we're all in it. I think Ethereum will go up on account of its compliance and malleability for the likes of the control structure. Your secrecy will not be protected, your privacy will not be protected. These are not, libertarian principles are not going to be the focus. You're going to have bots on there that can pull tricks. You'll probably have the equivalent of HFT, high frequency trading, that can front run your trades in the future. In other words, they're going to look to replicate the existing system with all the extortionate piracy again, and this is going to be one of the platforms. And even in others, we've seen them complying with passports, identity, ADA, VET, etc. So to get take up, they've got to help the control structure get their goal of enslavement, surveillance, and monitoring you. Have no illusions. So with that fundamental statement made, I don't think any of the big macro cryptos are your friend. They are just your new money, and that's how they should be viewed. So drop them when they're no longer hot. Take the money and the profits. Do not marry. Do not marry. But anyway, back to ETH. We called a rising wedge. I've got a couple of draws on this. I drew it slightly differently here as well, suggesting that there's 2 possible capping lines. This second impulse was a bit flat, so I drew it twice, and I'm suggesting 2 versions to you. We'll decide as things move along. The bottom line is not under question. The top line was kind of like that, because we saw this quite interesting, a lot of interaction there, and quite a bit into the rising wedge there, and then the structure there. So we kind of thought, okay, that meets the second impulse. It also meets one of the third points. Maybe it's broken and this is part of the pullback, or as I had it prior to that on the other draw, capturing more traditionally the falling wedge. Our expectation is it breaks up nevertheless. So here's the traditional wedge. There's the overlay draw still on, and there's the traditional wedge that I would have drawn from the top up top here. So one of these will prove slightly more relevant at the time. So maybe we haven't broken out of the wedge at all, and the second bounce here was just lacking a bit of puff for the extremity of the high there and the subsequent strength of the third. There was still a lot of pain in this rally that didn't see it make it all the way to that capping descending rhyme line like that. So one of those draws will hold out. But overall, we're in the third impulse. We're in the third impulse. So freestyle draw, grab the pen. That is 3. And you've had your blow off 1, And this right here is your 2. So whichever way you look at it, it doesn't change that. And I'm not sure you're necessarily getting a new lower low. This is a real support, that funnel. You see the green level over there. There's real support along the lows there. So a bit of scribbling for you there. That came from an upside HVF. It was an amazing one that led to the final blow off. We had one similar in 2017. ETH does throw these downs on the big moment. Not every day, but it does do so. So those were the ones. We did mention to you that when the run comes, we think Solana will be good. And we can revisit that. There's no changes because Bitcoin's not letting it go. So the one thing that happened is, the only reason we did the last stream is there was a possibility. There's a slight possibility. It's kind of like the first cup gold nugget. You have 5 chances to guess which. There's 5 cups and there's a gold nugget under one of the cups. And you get, 3 chances. You might fail. If you choose badly, you might use all 3 chances and not get the gold nugget. If you pull the first cup and you get the gold nugget, you've really nailed it because you had a 20% chance of doing that. Sometimes when you hear, after having a kind of double bottom there, sometimes when you do that, you can have just a small pullback and you can just go. And your 3 can be like that. And your 2 is as I drew it. And your 1. Sometimes you get the quick go. It sort of sets up, doesn't mess around, and it's pop out the blocks and off we go. But that would have required Bitcoin to be permissioning that. Remember, Bitcoin is the direction it will signal. When it is starting to move, it will signal the coming back of Bitcoin. And that would have required Bitcoin to be doing that. But now we're getting the more clear-cut, defined third. That's not bad, but that's why we stream, just to warn you, there's still a slight chance you could miss it if it goes early. This is the more expected version where you get clear, defined, and we're quite happy with that. We let the market tell us a clear, defined up and down 3. Kind of bounced on our splitter perfectly. The only people that puts gradient divisors through a falling wedge and spot the significance often of that. And you could have a bounce on your splitter, fail to make a new low, which supported in the funnel. So this could still be live. So we could then go quiet, come here, set up something small on a smaller time frame, and then go from there. And that could be quite a bit of time away. That can take 2 weeks to happen. It could take a month to happen. We could be deeper in the cycle. Yeah, we can move the bottom so that you can see the timeline. The framing is slightly different. So we have full view. Yeah. They're going to make me do it the old-fashioned way. So by the way, this isn't a timeline prediction that I'm giving you. But it does just give you a little bit of an idea. So we can pull it through a little bit and drop into this. So there's quite a bit of messing around we can still do in here without anything dramatic happening. So I don't think, guys, anything majorly significant is going to happen right now. You could do a lot of this and then go then, but you could also in the same time go here. So, it's very difficult for me to say which of the time frames and say, yep, it's coming 9 o'clock on the 26th as opposed to the 9th of August or it's something else. So it can fanny around in here for a bit. Or if it goes really quick, what's the earliest? It could come strongly up here, very small little fractal, and then you could pop there. But at the same time, Bitcoin must be showing something similar that is showing revitalization. None of these are going to all start going if it isn't permissioned by your God market. And that's the core. So you will always come back to readiness looking at the Bitcoin chart. And we're in the channel. That's where we are. So it's nothing incredible is about to happen right now. It's not in an HVF that's in a small time frame that's getting ready to break. So a couple of other things. The one thing you could trade for those that are hunting for work, and I can certainly say that's not a smart idea, rest. Sleep when the babies sleep. Anyone who's a parent will know what I mean by that. And get your rest because it could be very intense and very interesting later. I've highlighted Binance, Sol, so I'll have a look at those two. So these are big structural setups that could be, again, very, very interesting and provide you with overperformance when they come. And once again, you've got your 1, 2, 3 impulses, and you've had your nice rounded bottom. Who doesn't like a rounded bottom? There you go. And now you're in, again, a little bit of a channel to the downside. A little bit of a channel to the downside, currently trading up. It doesn't have to be that far away. If Bitcoin livens up and breaks out of that channel flag type structure to the upside, you could see a lot of triggering taking place over here. Binance sold off hard. That was a proper man peas off the roof event. It was a spiller. It was a thriller. The value of getting out and not riding the hard Burj Al Arab top floor mega gravity elevator to the downside where they do a free fall on you is very, very worth not participating in. And if you can find a way not to participate in that, you'll do real well. We told you about Sol. We haven't changed any opinion on that. It just dug a little deeper as well, as all these things were doing. So that is the structure that existed for it. We can put it on a 6-hourly. Pull you through. You can see it's turned up. Also, it's done with its 3 impulses and it's just starting to turn up against Bitcoin. So again, nice thick cokey. Little bit complex here, but that's your first. There's your first sell-off. By the way, that was the sell-off. That was the rising wedge into the highs of Bitcoin, smashed down to the neckline, 47.5. So at one point, you had a high of 64. And then you were grinding, squeezing. You broke down and you went all the way to 47.5. That was one of the hardest spills. The second spill was even worse when you came out of the right shoulder and you went all the way down to 30K, trading sub 30K. That was the second spill for here. It was actually smaller on Sol BTC in your second impulse down into there. That's why this is showing relative strength. And now you had your third, and we were talking to you. It could be squeezing and going. It did. It looked like it was going, and it got reined back because Bitcoin decided to get into its channel and take back. So there will be many a false start unless Bitcoin's ready. So I keep reasserting, Bitcoin needs to be ready. But it is now gaining off Bitcoin. You could have your third low in there. This is all very positive. A lot of on-chain metrics that I keep half an eye on are at good value or even extreme low value for Bitcoin. A lot of things are indicating it. We've had the original COT indicator. I can show you very quickly on that again. We're staying pretty close to that triggering level of 5. If you haven't already grabbed your free COT indicator, please go across to the profile, the Crypto Sniper, and grab it. It's 100% free on us for you. And it can be your 4 trades a year. In fact, you've only had 1 this year and we're halfway through the year. So maybe you'll just have 2 for the year. That doesn't require you to become a trader in the markets. It doesn't require you to be day trader sitting on 15-minute charts. In fact, I never recommend that personally. The money's made in the sitting. The money's made in the sitting. As some people, there's probably a hexagon or 2 in here. Some people hate it and think it's all just a scam, but I will show you this unbelievable chart, incredibly compliant to HVF method, no matter what you think of it. Look at these setup structures. Bang, accumulated in there, trade there, out there, overperformance, another setup, bang, you see the setups? Breaks, target made, over there, super quick targets. I did a free view on Market Sniper. You should follow Market Sniper for the generic trading benefits. Time matters. You should have time stops. Getting to your target quickly means cost, opportunity costs, indirect costs, and direct costs, the cost of holding open. Funny enough, in Hex, you actually get paid if you have. And here's another one, which they've just announced the Pulse will be coming. That one made its target. 3 HVFs in a row. This is like Turkish lira. You win each time. You win each time. Not bad. So technicals, very compliant accumulation, and during a shitty period for the rest of crypto. So, you know, it's fair to mention. It's fair to mention. I don't endorse or disendorse anything like that. So I also watch the upside down charts. So remember, we teach you about inversion. Inversion is a great concept. Must loosen up that lower spine. Clickety click clack clack. So inversion is an important concept. We looked at this inverted and we said, we've got an upside HVF for coming against us on ETH. Because I'm sitting with, wait for it, I've even got a little bit of the 3x ETH, which has been punished here. And I have plenty of ETH generally. Choosing not to sit with Bitcoin on account of when it reasserts, the alts will give us that little extra. But this is an inversion chart. So all the green candles are actually red candles. This is to provoke your bull bias. And this was definitely setting up a fact that we were going to weaken. And then it made a rising wedge, a little bit of a cheeky head and shoulder there. And now it's pulling back and it's at this target zone. So I sat there knowing that we were going to draw down. And you know what? It's okay. I'm not getting in and out the whole time. I don't want to become blue pot collateral trader. Remember blue pot, no leverage. That's your hold. That's your hold for long run for the bull market. I'm not going to get shaken and kicked around and shed Ethereum value or Bitcoin value on account of getting in and out. You'll always respond emotionally. You'll always get out near lows after bad news. People get out on pain. If you're not trading a strategy, you get out on pain. Real important point for everyone to understand. So we're not trading because it's not a trading market. Harvest when it's harvest time. We're sitting in collateral and we're sitting. We're largely sitting. I'm truly not doing much. If I want good news, I can go look at my hex bags. And in the meantime, I wait for Bitcoin to awake. So rising wedge, expect it to pull back and down it comes. So quite a harsh sell-off. So you will have had quite a bump on Ethereum to the upside. So let's have a look at Ethereum in the normal, because some of you are like, that's weird. I can't feel it. That's not the Ethereum chart. So let's put it on in the normal. And you can have him back. Up, up, up. There he goes. Here he comes. Wipe your face off from all the other mess. And you can see the snapback rally. So there was your little squeeze. Your little squeeze over there and down. And that was on the smaller time frame where we were at. That structure, which on your inverted, you still can't recognize it, was that. With volume by price and a little primer. So you could have short traded it against your holding if you really wanted to. I'm just not looking to make trading profits on the short side because these things could change suddenly. This late into congestion and potential base building after a marginally lower low, I'd feel an idiot if I lost money trading to the short side. I would have said I should have been doing that earlier on in the break. Okay, so that's Ethereum. We showed you Binance. We showed you Sol against Bitcoin. We can show you ETH against Bitcoin. And I want to show this one again to you. I think I did it last time. But it's so important for everybody, which is why, having said all I said fundamentally about Bitcoin, I want to say now technically, which is obviously a different aspect to look at it through, a different aperture. Let's get 6 hours on. There you go. So let's put that there and have a look. So you had a series of upside HVFs performing on FBTC. We told you from 2.5 you were going to trade through 6%, 6.4% on ETH. That's right. On this channel, you were told that. Here's some of those HVFs. There was another one to the left there, an HVF1, and there was another one. And that gave you a boosted target that then gave you 6.6. And then you got the first head and shoulder right there. And that brought you down. You sold off hard. And then you came very low down over here. Very similar lows. And now you have that. And it's a question of, are we going for another down leg for Elliott Wave 5 on Bitcoin, or is that basing actually occurring? Is that basing actually occurring, and this turns into an upside break? And this can take a long time. Bit of up, bit of down, messing about, low vol, churning here, slowly drifting to the top, and you can be breaking in September from that. August, end of July, you name it, all of them could be for FBTC. But the alerts here will tell you early on direction. If this were to break down through that low, set an alert. That's bad news. That could mean Bitcoin down and Ethereum down harder. Unless Bitcoin is pumping and the alts aren't. That's the only way. It's the only way is if Bitcoin is pumping up. strongly, and the rest of the tokens are a bit afraid and aren't yet ready to run. That's the only circumstances under which that's not bad news for you. Bitcoin leads strongly. You could trade down through there. So this structure we should all want to break on the upside. That fat purple line, you guessed it, that 2.5 year inverted head and shoulder we've shown you countless times. Like that. That target right there, that big fat purple line. And you are now straddling it and winding up for something. I'm going to guess upside. Control structure platform. Lots of development apps being laid down on Ethereum. F2, wada. All the dark forces jumping in. Plenty of upside for Ethereum against Bitcoin. But there'll be others that can be faster too. Ethereum's quite a big market cap already. And we've given you Sol and Binance against Bitcoin, looking both very, very good. Did we do Binance against Bitcoin? I think we did. Let's also have a look at your comments. How are you guys talking? How's everybody doing? Late to the stream. Richard Hart is launching the Pulse chain, says some people. Anyone else going to do the Pulse sacrifice? You didn't do badly if you were in Hex. But does that mean it'll be the same? That was the Binance one. So I did show this. I recognize it. And I think then, which one didn't I show? Sol. Did I show you Sol? There we go. Sol BTC. Yeah, I showed you Sol as well. So all of these are potentially at what we'd call the relative low threes. It's the final cheap entry. Low 1, low 2, low 3. 1, 2, 3. Up. That's it, folks. You could look back at this as the best entry you never took. But you can also wait and be comfortable and take the takeout of the final 3. Relative low 3, right there. So may well be against Bitcoin, which will mean Bitcoin is going up or is signaling broadly going up and the alts are ripping, which I think is our best case scenario. I think second half the alts don't need to wait and be scared. How do you invert charts? You right click in the scale. You right click in the scale and you select invert. Like that. Regular, percent, log, lines. Where's my inversion gone? Invert scale, there. So that's how you do it. But what I've also done is I've created an entire template where I change all the red candles to green and the green to red. So that it looks exactly like a normal chart. Because it's a bit weird when the candles going up are red and the candles going down are green. It's confusing to your autistic mind. So that's what we do. Carver, Ada. Ada folk are asking about Ada. Yeah, Ada is supposed to have, as I said, a news heavy. So we can have a short peek at Ada. Don't forget to book a call, to have a chat, to become a member of our community. It's going to kick off. You'll have had a quiet spell. You'd get straight into the activity coming for the second half of the year. And this is going to be the biggest and the best half. This represents, as an entry point, one of the best entry points to join our community, I would argue. Because by the time you've settled in and you know your backside from an elbow and you've watched some of the key content, you're going to have a ripper of a second half of the year. In my personal opinion, forecasting forward. And I don't think it ends December. I think you might have corrections in December, but I think it continues quite into the first. So you'll have action-packed, and we get real busy in there when the money's being made super fast with good setups. And then a very convex rounded 3. So Ada came back out of, again, I'd drawn a rising wedge. I'd forgotten about that. I'd drawn a rising wedge and it looked threatened. Ada looked threatened. And it had its one piece of good news and there was no follow-up. I think it was being included in a Grayscale all-world cryptos, minor percent, 4-6%. Not bad news, but it's, it was pretty well baked in that was expected. So you had the rising wedge there, the dip buyers on that news, and then after it was out, you just got more Bitcoin FUD and you had your down leg. In this instance, I would say to you that you did in fact break the wedge at that point there. Let's just clear the screen again and check. On the bigger time frames, you should switch to log scale. And we are. So for me, that was a pop out and a return move. So ADA actually popped early, but fizzled quite hard on its return move. But it hasn't made a new low like it did here. So again, that's your low 1. That's your low 2. And that could be, still early to say, a higher low 3. All of that points to recovery. Falling wedges are eventually upside continuation in most instances, particularly on a macro event like this. I would not expect, but it could require Bitcoin to drive it, this to fall in that direction on balance of probabilities. So you're on the right side of the market if you're in ADA, but you've had to watch it dissipate a little bit back down to 127. Against BTC, again, not as nice as BNB and Sol, but not terrible. You see that? Kind of chunky and high here. But then that 2-stage sell-off into there, that's your 2, that's your 1. Since then, a little bit feeble and a bit skittish. I don't know if that's Binance, the exchange being a bit skittish, but quite a lot of nasty wicks there. You can get taken out on those if you have stops. As I say, no stops, blue pot only, no leverage. No problem. You're trading with leverage, you're borrowing money, you could be liquidated, stop should automatically be in, that could have hurt you. So that's your third, a little bit low slung. You know, you're down here, and that's where that's the top and bottom of your second impulse. You know, there's a lot of, you're pretty low in that continuation structure. Others are better by design. They are more symmetrical. They have more beauty. A symmetrical face is a beautiful one. Just look at me, for example. Yep. So he says, what other questions do you say? Neo, are people still watching Neo? Daniel, are you a holder? You're still holding. Who knows? Now I've said that, it'll probably turn into an amazing thing. I remember it when it was AND shares and I just swapped into Neo. And yeah, I don't think I'm hearing much from them. I don't know where they are nowadays. Do I still have it in the list? Neo. Doggy. We got to do Doggy as we pass it. Elongated Muskiness's pump and dump token. Now, I still say you can't rule out he's going to make something happen out of this for this. And the line I drew for my community is when that breaks, it'll break big. But right now, structurally, it's not great. But that sets up quite a big, and that final spill, that would have hurt a lot of people. It's grinding along that level. So at some point it breaks. Again, it'll be dictated by Bitcoin. But there's no clear structure in that. But again, there's still the same DNA of 3 impulses. But it can go lower on that one. So we showed you Doggy on the way down to Neo. I'm not sure I even have Neo anymore. Oh, Neo. Yeah, I can't find him. I think I threw him out for being low interest. DOT, we've said before, not performing to the same quality as Binance, Sol. We said something similar for XRP. We'll show you XRP. Is it still up there? Better than Doggy for a rising wedge. Also calming down. Decent falling wedge this. We especially like the ones that didn't make lower lows. This did make lower lows. First sell-off, second sell-off. In fact, that could have been first sell-off. But that's all your 1. That's your 2, a weak 2. And actually your 3 is pretty good. I think it'll break out of its wedge quite well. But it's not an HVF. How's it doing against Bitcoin? Not bad, but again, Sol and the others were better. Still a falling wedge, a messy wedge. Stop going down relative to Bitcoin now. DOT hasn't been as good as Binance and Sol. That's pretty poor show. You see that. Still looking a little bit soft and fizzling, very close to lows. And a massive sell-off in that first instance. So it's a bit limp, technically. So we gave you DOT. We also mentioned Uni as a good long run. You see Uni's come down quite hard recently now. When we last spoke to you, it was up top there. So it was showing, if you think about its second impulse, the other one I was showing you, that was a lot better. But now it's in a similar level as ADA. Quite a bit closer to its lows and its highs. So this recent sell-off was a bit brutal. It's taken some of the shine off Uni. I don't think it's spoilt it, but I don't think it's a leader to the same degree that it was. But I think they'll all do well. But what are we waiting for? Bitcoin. Bitcoin to finish his summertime blues. That's what you're all waiting for, guys. I will do Theta because it is interesting one, seeing as the folk are calling. And I have traded it very nicely, successfully in the bull upside. Wi-Fi, BCH, Link, Vet, Nano, Theta. Bit soft, disappointing sell-off here. This is against the dollar. So mega sell. Didn't make a lower low in that sell-off, but more recently, that was a falling wedge that spilt out the bottom, which is not good. So actually it's shown some relative strength at the beginning, but now it's showing relative weakness. So it's underperforming since here. It was slightly overperforming before. So it's lost some of its structure and lost some of its shine. So we're trying to give you the best of the best, technically and structure wise, and you can see that on against the BTC. Fizzling near the end. It was doing okay up there, where that's a 1. And that was a slightly higher 2. In fact, we don't like the higher 2, and that would point to why it's now underperforming. So I would say leave Theta. We've shown you better. We have shown you better. Yep, guys, that's it. Please feel free to join us. Also, you can do some of your reset planning because you're going to be a whole bunch wealthier by December. You know that. That's the good news. For all of those of you that are depressed, go and work out. Ride your bicycle, get some exercise, get some rest, get some sunshine on your skin, protect yourself against the lab-created viruses that will be thrown about the place. Go and research that, follow Reset Sniper and other places to do that. Get healthy, be strong, you're going to need it, and you're going to make a lot of potential crypto-based wealth in the second half of this year if we're accurate, which we hope we are, and we hope for you that we are. And you can maximize that by being part of our community. Grab the link below and book a call, have a chat, and you can learn and be part of an active WhatsApp type chat environment. By the way, for those that think, oh, I don't know if I can do it, will I do it, is it worthwhile? You should make back a multiple of what you spend. That is our goal, particularly going into the next bull. It could be in a couple of weeks' time. It could be in a month's time. Settling in, getting a year from now run-in is going to cover the next part. If you maximize that correctly, which HVF method, true technical analysis, cross-party analysis will help you do, you could be in a significantly different position. And then you're going to want a Georgian bank account. You're going to want to have protect what you make. And we do a lot of those for very low cost compared to what other people do. For our community members, we introduce you to partners we've used for ourselves. You can learn off our experience on everything and absolutely everything in terms of the crazy times that you currently live in. Keep your mentality high. Treat this as someone's making you run a marathon. It is not a sprint, it's a marathon. You need to pace yourself, you need to prepare. You need to prepare for all eventualities, be physically fit. It'll keep your endorphins high, be physically healthy, get sunshine on your skin, do all of those good things. You're going to come out a lot better and stronger and protect those around you. That's it. The Crypto Sniper is done. We will see you on a call. Grab the mini series if you have no funds yet and you just want to start to get a bit of an idea, or capture us on the Market Sniper for the traditional markets as well. Great things happening there too. Do not have all your horses in one stable. Have a second stable with a couple of horses in there. I would certainly advise, check out Pure Gold, link below. Get yourself some silver bars. Maybe not now, but once you've made some crypto profits. If you have a little bit now, spread it around. These are really important things. We use FTX. I love it. I use the platform. I use it for blue pot, orange pot, and hot pot when we are using those things. Currently no orange or hot pot. And that is also in a link below. Get yourself an FTX account. Okay, good. Thanks for chatting in. Be patient. It's coming. It's coming home. It's just a slow bus. It's a bit like England. No buses come for hours and hours, and then suddenly 3 come. And they'll be jam-packed with football fans, and you'll be bringing that trophy home. And you're going to enjoy the ride. All the best to you all. Catch you later.